Send out another reminder this morning. Thank you, Meredith. So hopefully we'll have a good crew here. So welcome to the Coalition Building Learning Labs. If this is your first time, I'm Risa Hayes, and I'm joined by my partner in crime here, Meredith Coop. Want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Great to see you.
Awesome. So the purpose and objectives for these learning labs, essentially to explore the tools and practices of the LEAD LOA framework, or Leadership and Organizing in Action. It's a community organizing framework to grow our leadership skills and increase our capacity to make change, and really equip us with the tools to effectively lead change and really go from a state of disorganization to organization. And new for this year, somewhat new, we changed the format of these slightly to kind of lead with the tools first, rather than explaining all the concepts and theory first and then introducing a tool. So we're trying that out this year. Hopefully it's working well. We're only on our second session, so we'll see how it goes. Nadine.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but the third panel in purple, it says, and shape the future of healthcare and aging. That's intriguing to me. Why did I never notice that before?
I don't know. I can't answer that question, but
Because I'm aging?
But if you think about healthcare, and I really wanted to add aging in there. There's so many things that I'm involved in, and when we think about healthy communities, a lot of it does have to do with how do we age well in our community, and what can we do to impact that?
Aging as a patient or aging as a coalition?
Just aging as a person.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to assume. Thank you. Yeah,
no, thanks for your questions. So getting the best from these labs, and I'll just for time's sake, really probably the most important ones, definitely participate. This is meant to be very interactive. Please feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question, or use the raise hand function like Nadine just modeled for us. Turn on cameras if possible. I know sometimes that doesn't always work, or if you have low bandwidth, but it's nice to put names to faces. And again, just chat in or speak up anytime. We really try to keep our portion of this where we're talking at you. My goal is always, 50% or less, and have more time for discussion and to hear your own stories, challenges, your questions that you have. So please don't be shy. So first up, is anybody joining us for the first time?
This is Janine, and I am.
Hi, Janine. I know we already talked to you a little bit when we were waiting for people to come on, but what brings you here, or what got you interested in this? And is there anything in particular that you are most curious about or want to learn? And you may have put yourself back on mute.
It's a new, it's kind of like an update for me, because I've been doing this for quite some time, but we're having a lot of change. And I just want to help the team go through change the best way I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Anyone else joining for the first time?
We have Risa, both Mary and Hannah raised their hands.
Awesome. Welcome. Is there anything in particular? And you can either speak up or chat this in as well. I don't want to make any of our newcomers feel like I'm going to put you on the spot right off the bat. But yeah, if you want to share what brings you here, and anything in particular that you are curious about or want to learn.
I'm an intern with Brianna, so I think all of this is just going to be good for me and just to kind of see and grow my leadership skills in general. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
That's great. Thanks, Hannah. All right, and I'm not seeing anything else in chat. Is there anything I missed? Meredith?
No, but Mary still has her hand up, so we'll just turn it over to you, Mary, if you want to also share.
Okay, thank you so much. This is the first time I've participated in this, but I'm always wanting to learn better ways to deal with the community and things that might benefit them. So that was the purpose of me jumping into this. I
That's
appreciate
great.
you guys doing it. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. So glad that you're here. And where are you joining us from, Mary?
I'm from Oklahoma. I
Mhm.
work for the Cherokee Nation tribe. I've been with them going on 36 years now, and I am their comprehensive cancer control program director, I guess you would say. And we just kind of oversee our cancer patients and, you know, their quality of life, the treatments, things of that sort. So I thought this would probably fit perfectly into some of the areas that I'm wanting to work with.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us. And anyone else? All right, and any other raised hands, Meredith, that might be missing?
Not right now, no.
All right. Well, fantastic. So glad you're all here today, and really, truly, that's what makes these sessions rich for us. Is again not just hearing from Meredith and I, but hearing from all of you as well, and really hearing the real stories of what you guys are seeing in your work and in your communities every day. So, so what we've been talking about the last few sessions actually is shared structure. So again, for those of you who are new, this slide kind of encapsulates the framework itself, and I'll give you the thimble-sized overview of this. But leadership and organizing in action. Again, this is a community organizing framework. And it's really a practice in and of itself, or a set of practices and a whole framework that we can use to build capacity for making change, essentially. So community organizing, number one, is all about asking others to join us in our work, join us in making some sort of change. We can't do it alone 90% of the time. Most of our jobs, honestly, you know, we need to join with others or ask them to join in the work that we're doing to actually make change in our work, in our communities, in our world in general. And this framework, these community organizing principles, really enable us, whether we're a group or a community, to really be transformed into what we use this word constituency that is mobilized towards a common goal. So essentially taking, you know, a group of people who, you know, may have a very strong shared, you know, interest with each other, and it may be very obvious. Sometimes it's not so obvious. Maybe it's just kind of a group of people that came together, or you're thrown together because you work together. And you're not always truly aligned. You know, what's the goal? What's the vision here? What's even your purpose, or what's, you know, your values? What's in your heart in terms of the work? So this framework and these practices really help us ourselves get in touch with that. Why is this work important to me? But also to understand that from the rest of your team or coalition. It helps to create that greater commitment to the work, for one thing. Again, it helps you move from being disorganized or confused, perhaps, to really understanding exactly what your vision is, your mission and vision for the future. If you succeed in your work, what is the world going to look like? Excuse me, what could the world look like? And that's really what all of these practices are about. And right now we're exploring what we call the shared structure. So again, just kind of an overview here, these 5 practices: shared story. We also call this public narrative. That's really kind of the tool or the practice, but creating the shared story of our community. That involves, again, getting in touch with your own story. Why do I care? Why is this important to me? But what is the story of the community? How is this current situation impacting the community? And then what are we asking people to do? What's that call to action? Shared commitment. Those are those relational strategies. How do we actually go about asking other people to join us in our work? Especially when quite often, it's a volunteer or it's a collaborative relationship. How do we really truly get that commitment beyond just, oh yeah, that sounds interesting, I'll sit down with you, or I'll attend a meeting? How do we really create, again, alignment with the goals, commitment for people to show up and do the work and actually accomplish those goals together, take that shared action, as we see in that very last practice there. Shared structure. Well, that's where, and that's what we're talking about right now, but that's all those details of how do you create a culture where this group of people is now actually going to be effective. Whenever 2 or more people come together, there's going to be, number one, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate effectively. You need to figure out, how do you agree on goals? How do you communicate a shared vision? How do you create a culture in which you can get things done, communicate effectively, work effectively, efficiently? And again, you're creating an accountable culture as well. Again, people come together, especially volunteers, they want to know that they're spending their time wisely and they're there to get something done. So that's really all of that shared structure is all of those pieces to put in place to really help you, if you're the leader, or whoever is the leader or facilitator of the group, really hold it together and accomplish a goal. Shared strategy, and we've gone through some of that in the past. We always circle back around, by the way. Again, if this is your first time, we always circle back around to anything that we've covered in the past. So don't feel like you have to stop and start over, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of strategy tools that we'll cover again, I'm sure. And then again, how do we take shared action? So I left this in from last time because it really, as a visual, this is exactly what we're talking about here. Each of us really taking responsibility as a leader in some way, shape, or form, whether we're a formal leader, whether that's a title or not. But if we are in doing anything around leading change, we are leaders. And it really is all about accepting responsibility for enabling others, those around us, right? Those that we've either joined or have joined us in achieving shared purpose in the face of uncertainty. Even if we feel like there's no one who disagrees with our goals, it's still not a sure thing, right? If it were easy, it would be done already. So how do we actually come together to do this? And I just love this visual, truly moving from a disorganized bunch of individuals to an organized group that can actually get something done. And in this case, when we're talking about teams, perhaps moving from a Scream team or having Scream team attributes, or what's the word I'm looking for, characteristics, perhaps, to more of a dream team. So today we're really going to be looking at some of those tools. And again, we've talked about what are those conditions for creating an effective team. And I know there's a lot on this slide, but you can grab all this material in the portal as well. Last time we were together, we took some time and actually went through this team diagnostic checklist. And Meredith can share the link in chat with all of you. If you don't have it, or if you don't have it anymore. And you can, by the way, you can go in and use this checklist as many times as you'd like. If you are part of multiple teams or coalitions or work groups, as well as you can actually use this over time to see, how's my team doing? Have we actually improved? Are we getting better in some of these areas? And this tool really is, I know it, talks about a grade here, but it's really a tool to help you identify where your team has some gaps, where it might be struggling a bit. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. All you know is we are just not doing well. People aren't showing up, or we're not getting things done, or whatever, and you may not exactly understand why. So this diagnostic checklist really kind of gets into all of these different areas to help us identify where we might need to focus our improvement efforts. And don't worry about it if you have not completed this yet for your team. You can still get a lot out of the tools that we'll go through today. Yeah, Nadine.
Yeah, I've been toying with when's the right time to say this. I don't know if it's a prevalent situation you've come across in all your years, or if somebody on the video today on the webinar has this happen to them. But I've been in a lot of projects, healthcare related, but then I'm also on other committees that are pretty substantial, that really have a lot of repercussions if you do things right or wrong. And you have all different kinds of people. Doesn't matter if they're volunteer or paid, because I know volunteers that work just as hard as somebody that gets paid, if not harder. And that being said, if you have somebody that's a self-starter and goes off on a tangent, I say tangent like it sounds negative, but I don't mean it that way. Or if you have somebody that's leading the group and forms these coalitions with other mentors or whoever, and doesn't come back to the group to say what they've accomplished, or God forbid they actually include you in the distribution list of emails, it's such a morale. What's the opposite of booster? Whatever that would be. And I see it happen time and time again. And then you come back to the next meeting and you find out so much has happened, which is great. But if you're not included, not to a finite level, but even high level, it can really hurt the what are you trying to compelling purpose from last time.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to get into this today, not just that specifically, but there's a couple of components to that, right? Part of it is just being able to communicate that.
Right.
To say, hey, this is important, and we need to figure out a mechanism to ensure that happens.
Yeah.
And that's really, really a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is how do we create that kind of culture?
Yeah.
And really, again, it's about taking the pressure off. Some of the reason that we don't do more with creating culture is maybe we've had, a bad experience in the past, or an uncomfortable situation, or, people, again, I've said this before, but, truly, I can't even count the number of times I've been facilitating a coalition, as they're starting up or whatever. And I get to the norms discussion. Let's talk about norms, guidelines, whatever you want to call it. Oh, we don't have time for that, or we don't need to do that. We're all adult professionals. But I guarantee either, it's always in retrospect, right? And I just went through this. I'm on a local board I won't share any details, but I just over the holidays, there was a situation, and boy, when things go badly, that's when you really think, oh, we really should have had some of these things in place, or why didn't we ever think of that? Or boy, we need to do this. And of course, from my experience, I'm thinking, okay, we need to have this exercise. We need to go through this exercise right now, because, you sort of learn the hard way, essentially, is what I'm saying, is we often learn the hard way and then we go back and do all this stuff. But it goes for exactly what you're talking about too. It's not just about, don't interrupt people or start the meeting on time. It's also about those sorts of things. And even more to your point, building in celebration is often something that's also overlooked and that you really need to be intentional about. And I'll admit, I'm not the best at that. I tend to just sort of go. I'll do maybe a little bit of a celebration like right after the fact, but I'm one of those people. And it's not that I don't appreciate or any of that. I don't know why, I wasn't a cheerleader in high school, all of that. I just don't normally think that way. So again, that's probably part of the reason that I love this work so much and team process, because I'm one of the people that benefits, immediately benefits from all of these things, because I don't automatically think of these things. So helping teams, number one, stop beating themselves up, because there's a lot to juggle here when we're talking about how do we have an effective team. So building these things in is really important.
Yeah, it just seems so rudimentary, but you said it beautifully. That's what I was after. Thank you.
Yeah.
Risa,
Mm-hmm.
Can I steal the screen for a teaser of a tool that also comes to mind when Nadine is talking about the communication of the progress that's being made? This is another tool that we use often in this work. The old cliche, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If the leadership is using something like this to visualize the progress that's being made, it can be really powerful in keeping the entire group up to speed, even if everyone's not in. When you say, the go-getters, they're moving fast and they're getting things done. If they're able to use something like this, it's really helpful. So the campaign timeline is all about the peaks leading up to the mountaintop goal of what you're trying to accomplish. And then embedded with that is having a refined organizing statement of what are you measuring? How are you doing it? What are the actions and interventions? What's the heart behind the work? Why is it going to matter to your people, and by when? So again, that's just a quick teaser, but that's another tool that we're happy to coach on and individually, meet with you if that's something at this point in time that would be helpful to get tailored coaching with, but a really, really powerful and effective tool in the community organizing work.
Yeah, thank you. See, I love Meredith and I have been working together long enough now that I was thinking when you first said that, like, oh, I wish I could show the campaign timeline. And there she was. So, and we even have another version of that where up at that top where it said evaluation and next steps, where I've added in evaluation, celebration, and next steps. So it's so often it's all about, you have to name it. You have to really be intentional about including these things. Otherwise they won't get done, for sure. So thanks. So back to our toolbox. We haven't shown this slide in a while. But again, we've talked about the conditions, we've done this, this checklist. What can we do about it? What are the tools that we have in our toolbox to actually help us along this journey? And so under shared structure, some of the more specific tools for this, we've already gone through the checklist. And again, you can use this at any time team purpose, roles, and norms worksheet. And we do have a worksheet packet. It's almost done. That I'll be sending out to you, and I'll be showing some of that today. Team launch or relaunch agenda, which I'll cover today. Other agenda templates, how do you have, and I'd love to see yours, by the way, if you all use an agenda or have used an agenda in the past that you thought really worked well for your teams, and are willing to share, please share. But we have a template of an action-oriented, accountability-driven agenda that you can use with your teams. Again, it's all about those guide rails. We're not going to get to this today, but also talking about interdependent leadership. How do we create those interdependent leadership structures? That takes a little bit more, that's a little bit more conceptual, but it's really good to be thinking about that. And we'll get to that probably in the next, sometime in the next few sessions, as well as a coaching packet. Coaching is increasingly recognized as such a vital tool, a vital set of skills, certainly for leaders, but also for all of us. Actually, if we're in a team together, how can we create a coaching culture, or a culture of coaching within our teams? And as a trained certified coach, that always makes me happy when I see people really thinking about that and moving in that direction. And really, when we're talking about shared structure, so many of these other tools come into play. The organizing statement, community or coalition charter. You could use this with your own team. One of the teams that I'm on here at Telegen, we created a team charter for ourselves. Shared motivating vision. How do you do that? Again, not just for the overall campaign or project, but for your team, using those sorts of tools as well. So let's start to explore some of those tools. And before we get to that, I wanted to come back to, I think we covered this very briefly a few sessions ago, but thinking about how do we measure the effectiveness of a team? Because that can really help us as we go into creating the culture. So thinking of the team and measuring it. So as a consequence of working together, an effective team will see results. So if we think of these three measures, right? The team achieves real outcomes for the people that they serve, their community, their constituents, each other, whatever that unit of measure is, but we see results. And that's often where we stop, right? Is, well, did we meet our goals or not? Did we see results? But there's two other things that are very important for, again, working in teams and the benefit, the gifts that come from working in teams. Number two, we build capacity for future efforts together, future campaigns, initiatives, as well as sustaining and even building on growing the efforts, whatever results we've already gotten, how do we sustain those, as well as even build on them and improve? And the team itself gets better, smarter, and more capable over time. And third, we're developing leaders. Each person in the group is really developing their own leadership skills, their own mindset as a leader, and really creating that stewardship for the whole coalition or the whole team. So there's both individual development as well as a pride in and a nurturing of the team in and of itself. So just kind of holding that and thinking about that, how can you, with this in mind, how do you build that culture so that you're not just, at the very bottom level, getting along and getting things done, but how are you actually really growing together over time, both together and individually? So let's explore some of these tools. And I am going to get out of PowerPoint here, and first I'm going to get into, can you guys see, are you guys seeing this coalition meeting agenda and notes, or are you seeing something else?
These are the notes.
Awesome. So this is a template, and let me know if I need to make this bigger. And I can know, let's see, I'm going to get your faces back up here again. All right, there we go. So this is a template for a team launch or relaunch or reboot, whatever you want to call it. But again, this can be used whether you're just starting out those first few meetings, or if you at any point in time need to relaunch your team. Maybe you have new team members, or it's a new year. This is a nice time of year, right? You know, we just started a new year. So maybe if your team, whether they're doing well or not, this is almost like a, recommitment ceremony kind of thing, if you wish. Or of course, if your team has not been doing well, or maybe you didn't do this at the beginning, and you really feel like, how do we really kind of start over with a clean slate and get some of these structures in place? So that's really what this template is about. And again, we'll share this with you. You can use the actual template or just adopt any of these components that you think might work for you. But having enough, and this really goes for any agenda, but having some of these components, what's the purpose of the meeting? What are our objectives? Date, location, who's the facilitator, who's taking notes? Do we need a timekeeper? Who have we invited to the meeting? Having people's, not only their names on there, but their organizations as well, especially if this is a, cross organization collaboration or a coalition, and they're new to each other. Sometimes it's hard to keep it straight. Motivating vision, which you may or may not have yet, right? That's part of the launch, is let's all agree, what is our vision for our team? A section for excuse me, related documents. So the way one of my mantras in life, and certainly when I think about, leading a team or managing a project, is make it easy to do the right thing. So give enough information so people know where to show up, what's expected of them, who else is there. They feel grounded, connected. They're showing up with enough information that they can then participate fully, essentially, rather than feeling like, I don't really know what's going on. Why are we here? Who else is going to be here? So that's sort of my guiding mantra when I think about agendas in general as well. So in launching a team or relaunching a team, what are those topics that we really want to cover? So I often start with a check-in question on meetings in general, but a launch, and I just kind of threw a example check-in question here. What are you most excited about for 2023? But it could be anything, and you could make it really fun and personal, get to know each other. You could make it something that gets people oriented towards the work that you're going to do together. And a little tip, which again, I learned because people have asked me, hey, can you send us the check-in question ahead of time? If you're a thinker like I am, actually, I very much appreciate that. So, send the check-in question ahead of time so people can think about it. Review the agenda and roles. Again, this is on every agenda, but certainly on a launch agenda. If you don't already have it established, who's going to be the timekeeper? Who's going to take notes? Asking for volunteers, by the way, is a fantastic way to start getting people invested and to start creating that interdependent leadership. So it's not just about, sharing the love, as I often say, and, not having everything fall on you, but it really is helping people step up and take ownership, as well as not everything has to be done by you or one person.
Teresa, Can I add something there? I also use the tactic that if there's a new group that I'm working with, that oftentimes I'll offer to say, hey, if you'd like me to take notes, I'd be glad to. I do it on this template and then send it back to them. And oftentimes that elicits a great response, and, you know, just grateful to have someone to do that. So that's something to also keep in mind. It kind of goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's great modeling, actually. You know, if someone shows up to your meeting and volunteers for a job even before they've been asked, then other people are more likely to step up as well. So then we start getting into some of these visioning questions, if you will. So reviewing if it's something that the team has already gone through, or reaffirming. And it might be something that maybe the team is fresh, brand new. They haven't even started talking about this, but even talking about what's the significance of this effort to the community? You know, why is this work important? And there's a variety of ways that you can do this as well as a big group discussion. Or you can break people into small groups or pairs or triads and kind of interview each other and then have people, you know, report out. And again, especially if this is a brand new team or coalition and you're trying to really understand why are people here, really coming up with that shared vision. So it's not just you, for instance, or not just, you know, something, you know, in a contract, you know, for the QAOs. For us, for instance, we have, you know, certain goals within our contract that we need to meet, but really getting at why is it important for people? That's what's gonna spur people on. That's what keeps people invested in it. So having time in the beginning to really understand where everybody's coming from, why each person thinks it's important for the whole as well as important to them. And then you kind of can start to sort of mash it together and create a statement in and of itself. And another tip here, I highly recommend having someone or maybe a couple people volunteer to take what everybody else has offered to this and put it into a single statement and then bring it back to the group, and people, you know, agree, disagree, make a few changes. If you try to create some sort of, you know, vision statement, so to speak, by committee, you're all going to burn out. It's going to take forever. What's that saying? A camel is a horse designed by committee, which I don't fully understand. But you know, it kind of it's like it's got different parts from different animals and they stuck them all together. So anyway, so yeah, having someone or maybe a couple people, very small group, take all the thoughts from the group, make it into something, bring it back, and then have people vote on it. Otherwise, you could spend 16 hours wordsmithing by committee, and that's painful.
Risa,
Yeah.
I just wanted to check in. Janine had her hand up. I see it went down, but Janine, if you can confirm that you had your question answered.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's nice to do what she just said, is bring it back, and because you always have others that's coming from other organizations that do it a different way, and it gets very confusing, and we always like to open the floor to new suggestions. So I agree 100%. She did answer my question.
That's great.
Thanks for chiming in. And Nadine.
Yeah, I feel pretty passionate about this. I think you can really get pigeonholed being the scribe. I think it's a way to rotate those duties, because then you can get people who might be thinkers or might be ineffective members. I'll say it that way. I don't mean it in a mean way, but I've been on many groups where I've seen people never open their mouths in like 2 years. I thought, this doesn't mean they don't have great ideas. They don't know how to emote or whatever. But if you rotate that scribing piece, at least you get them engaged, and you know, dabble in a little bit of their perspective. I mean, you're not quoting anything verbatim. And also, if you only have one scribe, not only do you get pigeonholed, but I'm speaking from experience, but you might not hear everything that's going on because you're trying to write, and it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah, that really is, that's really a good point to make, and something that I've been trying out just recently. And oftentimes it's Meredith and I, not always, but is like with notes, for instance, to your point of not, one person doesn't always hear everything. You know, maybe one person jots down the decisions and another person jots down the action items. And that also spreads the love again, you know, it makes the job easier. If I'm only listening for that one thing, I'm listening for all the action items, or I'm only listening for the bottom line decisions that we made, that kind of thing. Yeah, that can be very helpful. Thanks.
And another tool that we use, if you're newer, you may not have seen this in action, but the Miro board, those online interactive Jamboard, Miro board, whiteboards within Zoom, those are really nice too, because it also brings out people being to add notes in their own voice. And then you can come back and kind of slim that down, but avoids having to have two separate documents, if you will, that then someone has to go back and merge.
Yeah,
That's-
definitely. Highly recommend. So, and I'm going to speed myself up a little bit because we're down to our last 15 minutes. And you can change the flow of this a little bit. I kind of like this flow in particular because it starts off with, you know, at least a surface level discussion or high level discussion. What is our work and why is it important? Right? And it kind of sets the stage for the rest of these topics. So moving into team roles and responsibilities. Again, the time difference here. And by the way, I see many agendas where there's no time listed. I'm always a big proponent for time. It doesn't always mean that you're going to stick to it super closely, but of course, hopefully that's the goal. But again, it just helps, it gives you the guide rail. So anyway, so team roles and responsibilities. Again, if it's a brand new team, what roles do we need? We've talked a little bit about, you know, what the work is, but what roles do we need in order to do our work? And sometimes it's easier to think about it in terms of what roles do we need in our meetings? What roles do we need on a work group or in general? Again, it kind of depends on your, whatever the effort is, as well as what are our strengths? Maybe what do we want to learn? To Nadine's point, do we want to rotate roles? And if yes, how frequently do we change? And I can't remember exactly who it was, but someone had asked last time, I think, do we assign roles or have people volunteer? And that's where, you know, these questions can be very helpful. I'm always, you know, my go-to is, well, two things: to have people volunteer whenever possible. I'm not, yes, you can assign people, but again, you're more likely to get confirmation and engagement when you ask people. So whether you just say, hey, we need this, does anybody want to volunteer? Or if you know somebody, you know, and you're going out on a limb here a little bit, but this also helps and reinforce that you've seen somebody's strength or gift. For instance, hey, Meredith, you're really good at, you know, really distilling down the message here. Would you be willing to volunteer for blah, blah, blah role, or whatever the case might be? Asking people is important. And it may seem like, well, that goes without saying, but it's not always. Sometimes we're voluntold, and, you know, if we've ever been in that situation, we often don't really like it, right? People like to be asked. Anything else, any other questions that any of you use when you're divvying up roles and responsibilities or having this kind of discussion with people? Or anything that you have found to be really helpful? And Mary, I saw you just came off mute. Did you have I think it was you.
Yeah, it was. I just wanted to, how do I say this? Anyway, the reason I started getting into this meeting was because with the comprehensive cancer, it is required, we have a coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's your first downfall, is that it's a mandate. Then within our department, they send people to the meeting because I need members. So I'm dealing with people that have to attend, and to get them to buy in sometimes is a little bit difficult. I've been trying to develop this coalition now since COVID stopped or slowed down for the past year, half a year, I guess you would say, 6 months. And so what I look at with my team building, I just now divide them up into work groups. And I asked for volunteers, like you said, in the beginning. I said, okay, this is what I'm looking at. Is there anybody interested in this? Well, of course, you have no one say anything. So the next meeting, I just got a hold of people that were in my membership that it's in their work. It's what they do. One example is we focus on tobacco. So I have a young lady that actually does tobacco with our public health programs. So I asked her if she would be interested in leading that group. And she said, yeah, I'll do that, because it's part of her work. It doesn't just complete my task, it also completes hers.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful for me, because one thing, I once was a person that had to attend that meeting before I got into the job in the position I'm in. And you're like, why am I here? I mean, you know, okay, boss told me to come, but what am I doing? So with what you said so far with your agenda and stuff, that has actually helped me out quite a bit.
That's great.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that, because I've held meetings before, but it's always with people that have to attend.
Yeah.
You know, and I prefer people to come in that want to make the change, that's invested in the goals and objectives of the coalition. That's what I see that makes sense to me. And that's what I'm trying to build on right now, even if it goes out of our realm of the people that they've had in the past, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've certainly been in that same situation, and I'm sure others, if not everybody on this call, probably has. And I agree. And even when we're in that situation, you know, how do we help those people get at the heart of this work, right, for them? So, and that's the other thing, I did not actually put that on this agenda. But I do think it's important, you know, even if you're just starting out and you may not know a lot about your group yet. But even having that statement of, why are you here? You know, and this could be something that if you send it out by email, you know, that could be part of your email, you know, you've all been asked to join this, or, you know, depending on what the situation is, or, you know, you're all here, you're on this list. That could be one safe way to say it, right? You're on this list because, you know, you've expressed interest, or someone suggested you. That could be a nice way to say, I know that you were voluntold to be to come to this, but but again, really appealing to people's, gifts, strengths, skills, and that really does go far. Sometimes we have to put on those glasses ourselves where that allows us to see the absolute best in people, their best strength. And there are a lot of people out there who are really tough nuts to crack, and depending on what it is you're doing. I mean, I've seen people sit in the back, arms crossed, and you're just thinking, oh boy, how am I going to draw this person out? But that's where really having a stash of questions in our pockets to really help people explore. And even if you end up having to pull someone aside, do a little one-to-one with somebody and say, so, why do you care about, and if it's the answers are, I don't know, I was told to come, I don't know why we're doing, I'm not sure why I'm here. And you can't quite get through that way. Sometimes I'll just resort to, so what's going to make this worth your time? Or, what could make this, and that could be, even that could lead you down a dark path. What'll make this fun for you? Or even, so what would happen? What would the world look like if we were successful? What are you seeing in this? And you're the exact person that we need to ask this to, because you are skeptical, right? So what do you think? What would you like to see happen if this group succeeded? Something like that, really appealing to, I love those questions. I always think about, our brains are problem-solving machines. So the questions that we ask ourselves and each other are so crucial for helping us think in a certain direction. So really asking those questions that are going to, I was going to say force, and I don't really like that word, but really kind of kick in people's dreaming capacity, or maybe that's too lofty, but giving them those guide rails so they can't just automatically, or it's more difficult to just go down a pessimistic road or whatever, but really be thinking. And so secondly, gets them engaged. They start to take some ownership. They start to get possibly even excited, or at least, I think this group's going to fail, but I'm curious to see how it goes. I mean, even if you can move a curmudgeon up to that point, that can help you, and you gotta keep moving them along the way. And last point I'll make is on that, don't focus on the 1% of people who are just really tough nuts, and for whatever it is, we have an instinct to do that. Like, everybody else is on board and doing great, but there's this one, it's like a pebble in our shoe. And if you can't get the pebble out easily, just kick it to the bottom of the shoe, Like, don't keep digging at it. Just, everything else is good. They'll figure it out. Anyway, so hopefully that was helpful, but yeah. And I'm going to go through the rest of this kind of quickly. We'll pick this up again and really get into some of these particulars. And I go back and forth. So team roles and responsibilities, and we have some worksheets for this as well. Team agreements and expectations, or also known as norms. How do we create the culture that will really help us work together effectively? And I can flip those two. I can argue both ways for talking about norms and then the roles, or roles and then norms. Just kind of depends on your group. And because even having a norms discussion, it both starts to create trust within the group and create that safe space, those parameters. How are we going to be together? But it also does require a little bit of trust going into it. So anyway, and again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You can chat it in now, or we can talk about it next time. But what your experience is on that. And I will definitely talk more about norms the next time too, really get in deep with that. And then, of course, reviewing your goals or a work plan, timeline. And this could take, if it's a relaunch or a reboot, maybe it only takes 20 or 30 minutes. You know, you're just sort of reaffirming. If it's brand new, this could take 45, 60 minutes, couple of hours, you know, who knows? Just depends on how, you know, where you are in your development, both you yourself, as well as some or all of the members that are in, you know, in there with you. Maybe you know that something needs to change, but you're not even sure what yet. That may take longer. If you have some pretty good ideas, it may not take as long. But again, and we have some worksheets for this too. Reviewing an organizing statement is a fantastic tool. I go back to it. That's probably one of the tools that I use more often than not. And then going through your next steps to determine how often do we need to meet? When is the next meeting? What do we want to talk about? Agenda item review, always review your action item review. What are our action items? Who's going to do them and when? And especially with a coalition, people are volunteering. Confirm feasibility. Can we get this done in 2 weeks? Is that feasible? And, you know, even if it's just a nod, yes, I've heard you and I agree. We don't want to assume just because we've written it down on here that it's actually going to get done by the person we need it to get done by. And then, and this is another thing that's often we don't do because we run out of time, but having a meeting evaluation, just quick, what did we do well? What can we do differently? What are our opportunities? That's a great practice. And again, especially as a launch or a relaunch agenda, this can really help set the stage for your future meetings and just the culture of your team in general. So we're right at time. I'd love to hear any parting thoughts, questions, anything you want to make sure that we touch on next time. And otherwise, thank you all very much.
Thank you so long.
Absolutely.
And thanks for joining, Mary. Your note. It's been helpful. Glad you could join. Hope to see you again. Thanks, Hannah.
Yes, please send the invite so I can attend the next one as well, because this has been very, very helpful. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And thanks for sharing.
And Mary, your registration, when you registered today, that actually works for the entire series. So it should be on your calendar, but if not, let us know.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
From today.
This was excellent and I really appreciate it. Will we have access to the forms and to the information or the recording so we can re-listen to it to make sure we didn't miss any parts?
Yes, absolutely. We'll send that out in a follow-up email, and we do have all the tools on our portal. And if for some reason you're not able to get to that, let me know and I can send them to you by email.
I'm not understanding what you mean by your portal.
Me neither.
So in the follow-up email, we'll send out a link to get to the portal.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That'll work.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All
Have a
right,
good day,
ladies,
everybody.
have a good day. Bye-bye.
You also.